I can tell you something about this place. My boys call it the Black Lagoon, the paradise. Only they say nobody has ever come back to prove it.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Frankenstein's podcast, where it's all about the monster. We are a creature feature podcast about monsters and why we love them. I'm one of your hosts, Joe Praska, and with me, as always, is
your other host, Khalid Hussein.
What's up, Khalid?
Hey, Joe. Good to see you, buddy.
It's good to see you too.
Yeah. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm actually really excited. I'm just gonna bounce right into it to bring in our guest today. We have, and I actually wrote up stuff for these guests today. I got something I'm going to read here. But we got two awesome guests with us. We got Marshall Julius, who's a writer, broadcaster, quizmaster, and professional geek, wrote Vintage Geek, the ultimate quiz book for geeks. And we also got Howard Berger, who's a special effects creator and co-founder of KNB EFX. Worked on over 400 films and television projects. He's also our first Academy Award winner and Emmy winner on the podcast. Both of them collaborated on a new book, Masters of Makeup Effects, A Century of Practical Magic, which is available now. Welcome, you two.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
No, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, of course. Our pleasure.
Yeah,
we won the Rondo Award. We won the Rondo Award, which I know is a bit of a, maybe after you've won an Oscar and Emmys and stuff, maybe not as exciting. But until I won a Rondo Award, I only had an English prize for most improved when I was 15. So I was super stoked to get a Rondo. Very excited.
Yes. Well, I have to add Rondo in there. Yeah, Rondo Award-winning duo. Yes.
I have to confirm with Joe, but I think that's still one more Rondo than we have. So
I think check the notes. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, one more.
You still got us beat. Still noteworthy.
I think maybe I think the Rondo really was for the person who most desperately wanted to win a Rondo, as well as the book itself. But yeah, I was quite keen to have a little statuette.
That's actually a great idea for an award. The person who wants it the most, that's one I would want to see who wins.
Yeah. We might have a shot at that one, Khalid.
Oh, I want it so bad, Joe.
I do too. I really do.
I'll give you some tips after the show.
Thank you.
Looking forward to it. So I wanted to say before you dig into stuff, Marshall, you were one of my earliest Twitter follows when I first joined Twitter.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I was like, one of the things I was looking for when I joined it was like the Star Trek community. And like you had been tweeting about Star Trek randomly at that time. And I was like, oh, follow. And then I saw, which led me to your Vintage Geek book at the time, which I thought was pretty fun. And the kind of quiz master like element to it. So
yeah, Twitter's been very good to me. I mean, as a journalist working for a variety of different outlets, online and print, newspapers and stuff, I never blag nearly as much free stuff as I get than I do through Twitter. So Twitter's been very good to me. You know, it's like posting pictures of my collection and stuff. Got lots of followers, made lots of interesting connections, and was able to basically abuse all of them and try and get free, kind of questions and stuff. People to contribute to my last book. So yeah, I mean, maybe Twitter is not what everybody wants it to be right now, but it's been very good to me.
Yeah, Twitter. I guess X now, right? Is that what they're calling it?
No.
We're sticking with Twitter.
Yeah. We're not buying into that.
No. Yeah, we're just gonna stick with Twitter. Good call. Yeah. But yeah, no, I was excited to chat with you, especially given that little bit of history. And then so Howard, I'm excited. Yeah, like I said, you're Academy Award winner for Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, right? Emmy for Walking Dead, I got.
Yep.
And KNB, which I was excited. We did a big episode not too long ago on From Dusk Till Dawn, and we talked a lot about kind of like your work on there and the exchange you did with like Quentin Tarantino. So I'm really excited to have both you guys on.
Well, thanks. Yeah. Dusk is a fun one. It's like, I was in London. We were promoting the book in London, and one of the events was at the Fulham Cinema, and we ran Dusk Till Dawn for a crowd. And I hadn't seen it since, I don't know how long. It's been a long time. But yeah, it's cool, man. It was a super fun movie, and Greg Nicotero and myself, did all the set work, and the K, who's not part of KNB anymore, Robert Kurtzman, was basically he came up with the story, and he was the first guy to ever pay Quentin Tarantino to write a script. So
Claim to fame.
we still have that return check. Once he deposited it, it was for $1,500. So Quentin wrote Dusk Till Dawn for $1,500, and the promise that we would do the effects for free for his very first movie. And we weren't sure if Quentin was ever going to make a movie, because at the time he was still working at the video store and all that stuff. And we're like, okay, yeah, sure. And then one day we got a call and he said, hey, I'm going to make this movie. It's called Reservoir Dogs. And okay, here's the second half of the deal. You guys do the effects for free. And we did. And we've been with Quentin ever since. So he's a super loyal guy. We've worked on every single film with the exception of Jackie Brown, because there was nothing he needed from us. But yeah, it's been a great friendship and working relationship. And he's extremely loyal and we're extremely loyal. And Dusk was a really fun show. It was really, really hard. We were shooting during the summer in Los Angeles in this old meat packing factory. That's where the Titty Twister was built. And we sweated our nuts off all day long and night long. And it was a non-union show. So we just worked and worked and worked until we were done. And all that vampire stuff we shot for 6 weeks, 6 days a week. So it was exhausting, but it was really fun. And George Clooney wasn't a superstar yet. And, we had Harvey Keitel, and it was so much fun. It was a great show. So, but yeah, I'm glad people still dig it and still talk about it. It's great.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. At the screening that we were at the screening that we did at the Picture House Cinema, they actually put our names on the billboard, which was sort of mad for me, because never thought that I would see my sort of name up there. But people love that film so much, and it was so much fun watching it with Howard, because no one laughed harder than Howard when they have the most inappropriate jokes or the dirty jokes or the most crazy violent things or the maddest things that happen. So it was really, really fun. I could just hear Howard having a grand old time. And I tell you, that that I would always recommend, if you're going to watch From Dusk Till Dawn, watch it with Howard, because it's just he's the ultimate special feature watch along, really.
Howard, please let me know the next time you host a rewatch. That is,
oh yeah, dude, absolutely.
This is one of the few movies that I was the one that lobbied for getting it on the pod. I'm sure Joe would have done it eventually, but
yeah.
This movie's near and dear to my heart since childhood. So honestly, just hearing all of that was so exciting. That's so great it's really already cool to talk to you, but it just adds so many layers hearing that story.
Yeah, no, it's fun. Yeah, it's I've worked on so many movies. K&B has been a part of so many movies with Nicotero and everybody, and it's fun to we'll be somewhere and people will come up and say, oh, I'm a huge Army of Darkness fan, or I'm a huge this fan, or bunch of movies, and out of all the films that I've worked on, I have a very small handful that I really, really love, and I base it on how many times I'll watch that movie. If I watch it now, I'm like, I must really like that film. But there's so many that I think I saw him at the screening, and I was like, okay, I'm good.
So, just one and done.
I've definitely, I work in production too, and I've definitely had that feeling of when I finally do get around to watching some of the stuff I'm working on, I'm like, I don't need to see it.
Yeah, no, it's sometimes I find working on the film is far more fun than watching it.
It's the better story.
it is, and you have just the camaraderie, and you have all these great stories, and then obviously that doesn't translate because it's all behind the scenes stuff. But there's a lot of times, I find that if you have a really great time on a show and it's just a blast, the movie probably won't be that great. And if you have an absolutely miserable time and you hate it and you're like, this film's going to blow, it ends up being pretty good and a hit. I mean, an example of that is Scream. So I hated working on Scream. I hated the script. I hated being on location. It was all nights in San Jose.
Hey, Howard, what did you do with the script the first time you read it?
Well, it was the first time I tried to read it. I threw it across my office 6 times because I just felt it was a giant, enormous ripoff, and I just didn't buy it. But no, I wasn't the only one. Wes Craven was like, "This is the nail in my coffin. This is it." And we all had no high hopes for Scream at all. It was just kind of like, okay, well, let's just do it, because we were all just coming off of Vampire in Brooklyn, which was a really hard show to do, and didn't end up doing all that great, and didn't do anything for Wes. And he ended up just taking this. The screen was offered to like George Romero and John Carpenter and all these other guys, and then ended up landing on Wes's desk. And at that time, Wes was like, I got to do something. And it ended up, I think Wes took that script that was extremely mediocre and really made it great, and ended up with a great cast. The post on the show is great. I love how the music. I love the score and how it all plays into it. And it ended up being a really, really fantastic movie. But literally, we were sitting on set going, "Oh God, this is so dreadful." I mean, yeah, it was crazy. Even I recall like Courtney Cox, was in the middle of shooting Friends, and she was the only cast member who didn't get offered a movie that year or that summer. It was summer break. And so, like, all the other actors on the show had feature films, but not Courtney. So they offered it to her. She took it, probably for an extremely reasonable amount. And that one ended up being a massive hit and obviously led into multiple sequels that she was in. And she was wonderful. And that's where she met David Arquette, and they ended up getting married. And they're not married anymore, but, they have a daughter, Coco, and all that. And but really super, super great people. I just hated the script because it was the same crap. It was a lot of just rip off stuff, that Evan Williamson had written. But when I saw it, I'm like, wow, boy, I was wrong. And plus it came out December 21st. And I'm like, who the hell releases a horror movie on Christmas? But then you started to see it build momentum. And then, whatever, it ended up making 250 million. It cost like 8. And, and then a ton of sequels and TV shows and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm glad nobody said, "Hey, Howard, what do you think?" Because, I would have said, "Don't make that. It's a horrible script." So.
Well, that's the tough thing with horror is like you don't even know it, but half the time you could be making a lottery ticket, like even nowadays you think of like something like Get Out that made it like the budget's peanuts compared to what some of these blockbusters are for, and what it made back, like that's never stopped being the case. So it's like, I feel like it's probably a point of privilege for you that like you probably had like your fingerprints on or been involved with so many great things that like you even had the luxury to like throw the Scream script,
Yeah, no, it's true. It's so interesting, and yeah, I never know anymore. I just go to set. I get to be with all my friends. I have a good time. I do the best work I can, and at that point, I always look at it. I always use cooking analogies and food analogies. So to me, it's like everybody brings an ingredient to the chef, and then it's up to the chef to make the souffle, and either the souffle rises or it collapses. So that one I thought was not even going to cook at all, and I was wrong. And Wes ended up making more money on that movie than he ever did on any other movie, because he, whatever deal he had, and it was great. He earned it because his whole career, as we all know, is magnificent. But he never was able to, like he didn't own Freddie or any of that stuff, so he never really participated in the success financially. So it was great to see Wes succeed and be able to live a different financial life.
Yeah,
something that I learned from working on masters with Howard was that these amazing artists, these makeup guys, they focus on doing the best job that they can do with their bit of the film, and as long as they're proud and happy with their work in it, then they really, it's not up to them whether it turns out to be a good film overall. You just cross your fingers and hope, but you can only really focus on your bit of it and to be proud of that bit of it. So we spoke to lots of people who did amazing work in perhaps films that didn't really necessarily live up to that work, but that's just them's the breaks, as they say. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but as long as you're happy with what you do. Is that reasonable, Howard, to say?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we've all worked on garbage, but, we do the best thing we can, and we're enthusiastic about our work. We don't ever, just like, it's going to be a piece of crap. Who cares? No, it's always, we take great pride. A lot of times we do great work in very bad movies, so you can't do anything about it.
And the truth is like this, like these are not like objective things that we're talking about, it's art. It's always going to change depending on like the audience of the time. And like, trends just somehow like bring out something that people will like and something that maybe an entire group just like disregarded at its time. And we've seen it over and over again, but like, especially with stuff like horror, where so much of it is like going for broke and like being so imaginative, like it sometimes takes a while for the audience to catch up to the imagination. And it's exciting to see that happen too.
Yeah, absolutely. You never know. It's all just a big giant crapshoot essentially, and you're like, I don't know if this is going to work or if it's not going to work. Let's do our best nonetheless. You put the same amount of effort in something that's going to be fantastic that may end up not being great, but you never put less effort into it, and focus. You're there. The most important thing is that you're there to do a great job. So,
well said.
thank you.
All right. Well, so that all being said, I almost feel like we just give you guys a mic and just like talk. It's so
yeah. Do you guys just want to host this?
You can just take over the show here, right?
Yeah. Used to doing interviews and being interviewed now.
Marshall, I'm saying right now, that's probably you are already asking better questions than I will, so I'll tag out.
I'm sorry. It's like coming in and I'm asking follow-up questions. I won't do that. I apologize.
No, you're good.
No, please.
I know there are some questions to ask Howard that you'll get some good answers out of those.
Yeah. Yes.
I'll let Joe follow that one.
All right. Well, okay. So I guess I'll ask you two our new guest questions that we asked everyone who's new on the podcast. One thing, since we are a monster creature feature show, we always like to know, like, our guests, like, what is your, in any corner of pop culture, it could be a book, movie, show, anything, what is your favorite monster? And if you don't consider it the same thing, what do you think is the scariest monster that you've kind of come across? Could be one you worked on, or maybe not.
Marshall, you go first.
Well, my favorite monster, since I was small, King Kong is my go-to answer. The original 30s King Kong. I just found that. Speaking of, some films have great effects, but the film doesn't necessarily live up to them. I think the original King Kong, easily lives up to it. I think there's something incredibly magical and otherworldly about that film. I mean, literally from the moment that it starts and they're in sort of fog-bound New York, and just the way that it starts with the mystery and all working all their way to Skull Island, and then the way they introduce Kong. And I mean, my God, he's fighting dinosaurs and stuff. He's punching up above his weight in the romance stakes. It's like he gets gassed and goes for a trip to New York and like kills a bunch of people. I just think that he had a really hard shake of it. He was not really a bad guy. He was the king of his island, and then they drag him off to New York, and it was like nothing that happened there was his fault.
Yeah.
But I just think that I think that film is just utterly spectacular. And as it gets older, it just gets better. It just feels like you're watching a sort of a fairy tale. It doesn't feel like it belongs to this world. It's not dated. It's almost just like pure imagination, although now I'm beginning to sound like Willy Wonka, so I'll just curb it back a bit. But I really love King Kong, and just like crazy about King Kong. The idea of it. I love stop motion animation. I love the fact that you can see Willis O'Brien's thumbprints in the fur, and just every part of that film is spectacular. You also wanted to know about but I don't find him scary necessarily. I mean, yeah, if I was in New York, I would probably run in the other direction, and definitely I wouldn't want to be in a subway train or anything when he's around. But I mean, for me, scary. I've always had a thing about sharks, and although maybe it's not, the most realistically realized shark of all time. I mean, Bruce from Jaws. The way that, again, that film spins the yarn, the way you hardly ever see him. And yeah, the sort of dead eyes of the shark, and the way that everybody facing him is really out of their element. I find all of that utterly terrifying. So Bruce definitely is and a complete monster as well. I know he's just, he's really just doing what he does naturally. He's not evil necessarily, but he's quite aggressive. He doesn't have to do all that stuff. He's really pushing it in the kind of, well, you're in my domain, when there's people literally in a boat and stuff. I should think that there's easier food for him to go around and eat. So he's a little bit pushy, but definitely Bruce in Jaws is the scary one. So I'll take a breath now and let Howard have a go.
Okay.
I just have to say, I've never heard anyone describe the shark from Jaws as pushy. That's a new one.
It's a good way to put it.
It's like people say, oh, well, it's not really his fault that he's, that he's he's in his element. Things come
Yeah.
in his
We're in his house.
the top of the food chain. Yeah. But I mean, he doesn't have to be a douchebag about it. There's people. Seriously, there's got to be a lot of seals that are easier to catch than actually like unwrapping his food in this boat and stuff.
I mean, we don't know his side of the story. It could have been like a midlife crisis. There could have been some like hot younger sharks nearby that he was showing off for.
No, you're right. You're right. He was going through some shit. That was his thing. I'm going to look at it that way next time.
Please, that's all I ask. Sorry about that, Howard. I cut you off. I would love to hear yours.
No, that's all. That's all good. I like that pushy. That could be a good tagline. He's nice, but he's pushy. I mean, for me, it's like my favorite monster of all time is Creature from the Black Lagoon, because I love that movie, and there was something about it when I saw it when I was really, really young. My dad was in the film industry, and there you go, there's Creature, and
there he is.
And I really, he really encouraged me to watch films with him, and we watched Creature, and I've seen it so many times, but I love the story. It's simple, but as from a kid's point of view, I just love the Creature, and I still do. I think it's a perfect monster. I think it's a perfect suit. There's a pathos to it, which is, and I feel this way about all monsters, that they're all victims of circumstance. And, again, like Marshall was saying about Kong, the Creature was perfectly fine in the Amazon, living his life, and then a bunch of stupid humans show up and they try to capture him. And of course there's going to be death and, destruction and for 3 movies worth. And, but, I was just mesmerized by that monster. And as a little kid, drawing on my homework and my lunch bags and anything, doing Creature from the Black Lagoon drawings. And then my dad had bought me this full length, like 6 foot tall poster I had in my bedroom of the Creature, that famous photo with his hands up. It's like a studio unit shot. Mm-hmm. But I would look at it night and day. It drove me crazy. And my mom was an artist, and then she drew me a version that was even bigger, and I had it on my bedroom door. So at night when she closed the door, I would be looking at the Creature, which of course most kids would be like freaked out. I had the best time ever. And the monsters were always friends to me. Like I always was like, I sure wish I could be friends with Kong, or I wish I could be friends with the Wolfman or Creature from the Black Lagoon. But, I would say I love the Creature so much, and the design of the Creature that like Chris Mueller did, and all the guys at the Universal shop, the makeup lab back then. If I was ever approached to do a remake, I would do the exact same design. There'd be no way I would change it. I'm just like, that design is perfect. We don't need to do it. It's a guy in a suit. Maybe the head does a little bit more, but I'll tell you, man, it's like 1,000% for me. I would never ever change it. I've read a couple of the scripts that have been out there, the quote unquote reboots, which I thought were all terrible. And it was always some sort of digital nonsense, and then tentacles shoot out. And I'm like, what? No, that's not my Creature. Yeah. So Creature in the Black Lagoon, and I like Revenge, and I really like Creature Walks Among Us. Because there's a different creature in it, and it's like, wow, that's really, really cool. When he gets his gills removed and lungs, and for some reason he bloats up into a wrestler. But I was okay.
He is enormous in that. Enormous,
really big. And then as far as scary, I mean, of course, Jaws is the quintessential horror film, where it destroyed the beach for millions and millions of people. I don't go to the beach. I don't go in the water because I'm terrified of it. But I have to say, my first recollection of really being terrified was my dad, for some reason, thought it was a good idea for us to go to a double bill of Dr. Phibes and Dr. Phibes Has Risen from the Grave, and those movies scared the shit out of me, especially the second one, Dr. Phibes Has Risen from the Grave. There was a scene, I don't know what it was, but there's like a face is revealed in the sand, a sandstorm, and there's like a scorpion that comes out of the guy's mouth, and that just gave me nightmares forever. So I was really young. I'm going to say I was like maybe 7, and I would have nightmares every night, and I'd wake up screaming bloody murder and crying. And I remember my mom came in one night in the middle of the night as I was like screaming, and just went, "You will never see another horror movie as long as you live. I swear on my soul, you will never see another horror movie." luckily that didn't happen. So, but that movie really, really scared the shit out of me for some strange reason. I should go back and watch it. I'm sure it's not scary, but yeah, I'm going to say Dr. Five, the second Dr. Five's really, really freaked me out. I'm not afraid of it now, but and any ghost stuff always gives me the willies, the Japanese version of the Ring I thought was freaky as hell. And that really, it's stuff plays in our minds as monster makers, you guys, and monster lovers and monster kids as you guys are. Sometimes your imagination gets the best of you, and I'll be downstairs as I'm turning the lights off at the end of the night, and I just feel like there's something down there that's going to be crawling at me, even at
because there is. You're right. You should
yeah,
be right to be scared.
60 years
no,
old,
it's true. After seeing Insidious, even though there's not a scene in the toilet, every time I go down for a wee in the middle of the night, I'm sure that guy is behind me. Why he's watching me, I don't know. Why he's on the ceiling, I don't know. But it just really plays on my mind.
It's not for you to know why. Just get out of there.
That's what I do. I haul ass up the stairs. My wife
up afterwards, but once I'm locked into that business, I'm afraid the monster or not, I'm there for the duration. But as soon as I'm up the stairs as quick as my legs can carry me.
Yeah.
I also love. I had to say, I didn't want to interrupt you, Howard, but Howard's talking about
but you will.
Posters of the creature on his wall. It's like and it's like most people had pictures of like Charlie's Angels on their wall and stuff, back then. So it's like,
Well, I did have the Farrah Fawcett.
You had Farrah Fawcett as well. Okay, well that's okay. You got to have balance.
Yeah, I think if you looked in my bedroom as a kid, which I had so much shit on my walls, my parents finally just put corkboard surrounding the whole room because I destroyed all the rooms, so all the walls. But yeah, I had the Jaws poster, I had Star Wars, I had Cheryl Tiegs, I had Rollerball, had King Kong, then had Farrah Fawcett. So it was a good mix.
That is a good mix.
Oh yeah, I think so too. And then a billion masks, monster masks and all that stuff, and my stacks of Fangorias and Famous Monsters and Mad Magazine and all that stuff. So
cool.
I wish I knew where it all was. I don't know what happened to it.
Yeah.
Sadly.
I mean, it would look great, like if you just threw it back up now too, like get some nice frames for some of it,
like in an office or something. Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm at K&B. My office is jam packed with stuff, and I can't help it. I just bought a bunch of vintage Star Wars posters, and I'm like, I don't know what to do with them.
Oh, so, my roommate's in love with all.
That was a secret.
Well, Miriam's not. My wife won't listen, so it's okay. She's in the other room. There's a giant, enormous thing over here in the corner in my home office that still hasn't been unpacked. That has tons of Star Wars vintage posters in it that I bought. So
wow,
it gives you that feeling. I think that's also part of being a monster kid and loving all this stuff that you can be however old, and when you see something, it just sparks this feeling in your heart, and it literally jettisons you back to being a kid and remembering what that feeling was, like the first time you saw an Aurora monster model, or your first issue of Fangoria or Famous Monsters, or seeing a movie poster. I think my two favorite movie posters of all time are the Jaws poster, which I love to no end, and the Hildebrandt Brothers Star Wars poster, which I love that. I just think it's a beautiful poster. And both posters I saw before I saw the movies, and I could only imagine what those movies were. I remember seeing the Jaws poster, and the teeth look a little mechanical in the painting if you look at it. So I wasn't sure if in the movie if it was a mechanical shark, like somebody built a robot shark that killed people, because I hadn't read the book yet. And then Star Wars was just looking at that colorful poster, going, "What is this film about?" And I think it's going to be my most favorite movie of all time.
That's back when marketing was able to do that too. Now it's there's a million accounts and publications that just do so much in coverage of the pre-pro that by the time you get to the movie, you feel like you wrote it.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, there's no secrets anymore.
Yeah.
There are a few exceptions, and isn't it? But this was, when we were growing up, you would. Maybe you would see a trailer if you'd gone to a movie, months before, and they had that trailer attached to it. But it wouldn't have necessarily been on TV or anything. Maybe you would catch the odd thing, or in England, Star Wars came out in December 1977. We got it months and months after you, so we were that much more aware of it. And I've never hated living in England more than those several. It's And now when people complain, they go, "Oh, the Bond movie's coming out like 3 days in England before in America." It's like, "Oh, boo, bloody hell!" I had to wait till Christmas. You had a Star Wars summer. I had a Chewbacca Christmas. I tell you, there's not much that you can have that level of anticipation for and still come out like with a life-changing, like, holy Christ, that my life begins today. But that's how I felt when I saw Star Wars. It was the 1-2 punch of seeing the greatest film I'd ever seen and walking out of the cinema and there just being tables of merchandise and just shitting myself in like, oh my God. And my mum like got me like everything, the program and posters and stuff. And it was just like, it was the best day. It was like,
oh yeah,
what I want every day to be like for the rest of my life now. And I guess that's what Monster Kids do, because it's like, you chase that feeling. I suppose it's sort of a bit like drug addiction, actually, come to think of it. But
Chase
it's like,
high.
you can still get that high, though. You can still get that high. It's elusive. But every time I watch Star Wars, every time I watch Jaws, I get excited about it. I still jump every time you see Ben Gardner's head in the fishing boat. Just because I've seen that movie a million times, just because I know they shot that scene in Steven Spielberg's swimming pool, it doesn't make any difference. It's magic, that movie, isn't it?
100%.
Have you guys, the movie poster talk, you guys ever see that documentary 24x36?
No, I have not.
It's like
I'm gonna write it down.
Yeah, it's about like the art of movie posters, like where they kind of like the illustrated movie poster, why they went away, and people trying to bring them back. It's interesting. Yeah. If you like movie posters, it's kind of a fascinating thing.
I love movie posters. Yeah, nowadays it's just like Photoshop.
Yeah, just heads, right?
Yeah, and sometimes there's even like the wrong head on
the wrong head. Yeah,
yeah. There was a movie I worked on called Gross Anatomy that was a Disney film, like a medical thing with Matthew Modine and Daphne Zanuga, and it was like the worst Photoshop poster. It was like other people's bodies, and then their heads were photoshopped on, but the heads were slightly larger. And you looked at it and I'm like, boy, that is, that's really a bad poster. So,
oof, yeah.
But yeah, I miss the days. We, Marshall and I have argued, well, even with this book, we argued with the publishers about an illustrated cover, and we hired Graham Humphreys, who's a wonderful illustrator. And the piece he painted is in the book, in the contents, table of contents section. But anyhow, they just wouldn't budge. That was the one thing they wouldn't budge on, is they didn't feel an illustrated cover was going to work. I still disagree, but I like the cover that we ended up going with. They were very clever with it.
I'm looking at it right now. That illustrated piece is really cool.
Yeah, it is super cool, and Graham is amazing. He's so fantastic. And
do you remember how we put a poll on our socials before when we were trying to convince our publishers to go with the Graham art? We put a poll out and we asked people, what? I mean, we stacked it in the favor of what we wanted, but we still said, what do you prefer, photographic posters or illustrative posters? And everybody said illustrative. Everybody.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think there was one person that said, that said, "Oh yeah, I want a photo."
Yeah.
But we came up with a really cool idea for the cover about splitting it up and the different monster faces, and we drove them crazy about getting the right faces. Didn't we, Howard? We picked a million different monsters, and then there was some old and new, and it was like, well, this doesn't really work because it has to be, if it's got to be super high res, then it's really hard to get old photographs that are that high res, so it had to be sort of modern stuff. And then we drove them crazy. Once we kind of were on board with doing it what they wanted, we sort of made them regret it.
Yeah, it would have been
like, we'll totally do it your way, but we're going to do it in a sort of, you do it our way, we'll do it your way sort of way.
Yeah.
I love that.
Very true.
So I normally ask a few other questions about like stuff you guys are geeky about, but I think we can kind of gather some of that. I wanted to mention, we've been talking about the book a lot. For people listening, it is called Masters of Makeup Effects, A Century of Practical Magic. It's a big kind of coffee table book, super cool. Awesome. I really love how you guys chose to like design it like around quotes from people and like separate the chapters out that way. It's really nice to just pick up and check out a chapter, or like somebody like hand it to somebody like, check this out. And it's really easy to like disseminate that way, but it's I'm really enjoying it so
you
far.
can read it on the toilet.
Exactly. Yes.
Dance around. You can say it. It's fine.
You can read it on the toilet. Exactly. Yeah. Would you just for people listening, like maybe who haven't heard of it, how would you describe just like an elevator pitch of what the book is?
I mean, for me, it's the one thing when Marshall and I decided to write this book, which we wrote during the pandemic, because we knew everybody was out of work, so it was perfect time to strike all our friends. But I didn't want to do an instructional book because I always find those are, for me, boring. And always, I'm a very visual guy. So is Marshall. I'm also I learned a lot during this process, and I'm very dyslexic, and I feel almost everybody who's creative is dyslexic, and so many of my colleagues are dyslexic, as I found out. And so it was very important for us to have the print and font in the book to be easily read by people that have reading disabilities.
Wow.
So I've heard from, which was nice, I've heard from people that aren't in the business that have gotten the book. That was like it was easy for them to read, and that was really an important thing, because I read a lot, and it's always very difficult, when it's small and tight and what have you. But I also didn't want to do a book about me, or I didn't want to do a book about K and B. That's very self-serving, but I wanted to hear the stories from all my friends, makeup artists, directors, editors, VFX, so forth and so on. And to me, that's always been interesting. I've always loved storytelling. I'm a great storyteller, I feel, but I love to hear what my friends say. And all through my, 40 years of working in the industry, it's all been that, and listening to stories. And I thought that was a great pitch. Like this is the history of films that you all love being told, firsthand. It's not me relaying. It's not Marshall relaying. It's from the actual person telling the stories, and I think that's what makes it very unique. Also, the photos, it was a main directive for us, is that these were all personal photos from the artists. I didn't want to use, unit photography, photos you've seen 100 times. Any book you can go and pick up in a bookstore that's about horror, it's all the same photos you've seen 1,000,000 times. It doesn't feed you. So everybody was so gracious to give us photos. I mean, there's about 1,000 photos, I think, in there. We collected 4,000, so we've got 3,000 more. But we collected so many great photos, and that was the hardest part, was deciding what photos we weren't going to use, because every single one is magical and tells a story. It was so important and really essential to us to make sure that it was an extremely visual book and very, very easy to read. And I think we succeeded in that.
For me, getting to know Howard and talking to Howard and hearing and him telling me his stories, and he's got a million amazing stories and really fun stories, and they really take you to the set. You really feel like you're there, and the way that he's very kind of inclusive in the way that he tells stories. And Howard always said to me that his favorite thing about making movies is hanging out with his friends, sharing stories, making new memories, just the fun of it. And I thought, if we could create a book of stories that captures that, then it's sort of like it would make everybody feel like an insider. Like everybody feels like they're not just with their nose pressed up against the glass looking in. They're actually being kind of welcomed inside. So I was the sort of conduit through which, I kind of tried to, that was the vibe that we were going for. So Howard was like, come on in. And I just wanted to make sure that the sense of kind of wonder and wow, oh my God, this is the best dinner party I've ever been at. I can't believe this story and that story. And just wanted to all of that sort of excitement and inclusion, if that makes any sense at all. That's what I was excited about. And I think that's what we did. We were really tough. We didn't, we cut a lot of stuff. We were sport for choice. We did 70 odd interviews. We had millions of words. We didn't have to keep in anything unless it was absolute like prime material. And it was just, we were so happy with how it turned out, because I've never worked on anything that actually turned out sort of. It was like actually turned out exactly what we hoped for. Which is kind of a remarkable outcome, actually.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say, like, just like from what I've been able to read through it, it's such a great read. As you guys were saying, it is easy to read, and congratulations on just the accomplishment of making a book, let alone having like so many photos. It sounds like you could do another book if you wanted. But even more so, like, I think that what really like stood out to me was that like you really captured this feeling that I try to explain to people that aren't in California. That like, sure, a lot of like movie history and magic is done on these studios, but like a lot of it's also just done in like garages, like Howard and I, we were talking before this, like he's in the valley, I'm in the valley, like driving around some of these neighborhoods and stuff like that. Like, oh yeah, like people were making history in these like areas. And it's like you get so much perspective with like starting at the beginning of creature effects and talking about how those guys didn't even necessarily know what they were doing in the moment, let alone like what to call it. And that hasn't really changed. Just about every job, every new movie is asking you to do something that hasn't been done before and like add to this history and this collective. And this book just does such a great job of showing like what that is like for people in the industry.
Thank you. Well, no, that you raise a good point because I grew up in the Valley. I'm from Los Angeles. I grew up in San Fernando Valley, and it was really a makeup effects hub. And you're right. Everybody started in their garage and then got little shops. And just like in the area I was living in Northridge, there was Stan Winston Studios, which was up the street from my house, about 2 miles away. And Stan did, Terminator and Jurassic Park and, all these great movies that we all love, Predator and, and I met Stan when I was like 12 years old, and he nurtured me through my childhood. And then when I got out of high school, I got a job working there, and I got to work on Aliens and Pumpkinhead and Predator and Invaders from Mars. So
Wow.
It was great. And then, and then down the street from there was Carlo Rambaldi, who built the original alien head, the mechanical alien head, as well as E.T. and the Close Encounter. So everybody was in this little area. And then in North Hollywood, there was like a corner where there was like Rick Baker had a shop there, a guy named Dave Miller, Greg Canham. Across the street was another company called Makeup Effects Lab that was being run by Alan Apone. Then John Beekler had a shop up the street. So there was like a hub of all these effects shops that you would work at. And they were just little teeny places, that and through the years, it got bigger and bigger and bigger as things started to catch on. And I started right out of high school. So that was in 83. And, it was great. But yeah, I mean, we didn't know. We were kids, and it was monsters and rock and roll. And that's really what it was. We made no money. All of us were probably making between $300 and $350 flat a week. And, it was enough to pay your rent and buy beer for Saturday night. And that's really it. And you were just a great big community. You were all the same age. I got in at the right time. And that's when, it was rather haphazard. It was dangerous at times. We did stupid things, but whatever. And it was really great time. But yeah, no, I do go back because I'm very nostalgic about that. And I'll drive past Stan's old shop, which is long gone. It's now a printing store on Parthenia in Tampa. And I'll drive back there, and I went in the back where we had built and tested the mock-up of the Queen Alien. I'm sure you've probably seen that footage of it. Was just like cardboard and garbage bag, and we had it on a
bin bag alien, classic.
We just wanted to see what would work. Stan had us put it all together, and we're back there. And I drove back there, and I just got out and took a picture, and then I combined the picture with 30 or 40 years ago, and I'm like, God, the magic that happened in these buildings, nobody will ever know.
They won't, yeah.
Just they don't know. I wanted to go into this. Unfortunately, the printing place was closed, but I wanted to go in there and just look around because that was like a magical place for me. It was very much like Disneyland when I was a kid. The smell and the cool stuff that was everywhere, and the cool photos of monsters and just everything. And Stan Winston was always such a great guy and a champ and really nurtured everybody. And same driving past Rick Baker's old shop, on Whitsett and Sherman Way. And I'm like, the magic that happened in these is now like a storage unit. And I'm like, you have no idea whatever happened in there. I mean, the movies the creatures that came out, the actors that went in and out of those doors, and nobody knows. So The Collar and Baldy shop, which is off of Reseda and Parthenia area, is now just a car garage. Like they just repair cars, but that's where ET was made. But nobody knows it. Nobody knows anything about it. And to me, that's not that there should be a song like "Home of ET," where ET lived,
but that's history.
It is history, and it makes me, I feel a little melancholy sometimes when I go by these old shops, and I'm like, God, it was so great, so many amazing things, and so many amazing people, came out of those spaces, but now it's not.
When I went to LA when we were promoting the book, and actually, see, Howard and I met in 2006. I interviewed him for Narnia. That was where we first met, and our friendship had been entirely over the phone and emails and stuff. It was sort of very modern in that way. And then actually, the next time, the first time that we met physically in the same place was when I went to go and stay with him for a couple of weeks to promote the book. Our entire book was written over Zoom and stuff. We were speaking every day for hours, and then spending all that time with Howard, driving around, LA to one venue or another, and he'd be like, "Oh, you see that? That's where they shot Hunchback of Notre Dame." And then he stopped and he says, "Okay, stand in this street now. Okay, right, this is where E.T. took off on, on Elliot's."
Wow.
And it was just, and he took me to Collar around Baldy's shop, and LA should definitely be more. Should make more of its history. There should be a lot more statues up and signs. And, in England, we have the blue plaques in London. If somebody famous lived in a house, we make sure that you know about it. And I don't understand how a city so in love with films can just sort of erase such amazing history. With Howard, it was like, I felt like, just like the absolute best guide for that.
That is such a brilliant point.
That's It's cool to say, like, for this podcast, especially, we got the guys who like literally wrote the book on monsters. So no better people we have to discuss the movie, which I think everyone who's reading the episode title knows. We're talking about Creature from the Black Lagoon a little bit after this, but I suppose we should transition to that. Spoilers. Yeah. Well, you know what, Khalid? You know what? I got a question for you, Khalid.
What's up, Joe?
Just to segue us into the movie discussion. So what do you get if you cross the Creature from the Black Lagoon with a peanut?
What do I get if I cross the Creature from the Black Lagoon with a peanut?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know.
Oh, you might have heard this one already, haven't you?
No, I haven't, but I just figured it out.
Okay.
Already? Okay, now I got to hear it. What is it, Marshall?
Say it, Marshall.
Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Oh, you got it.
Wow.
You got it. We're on the same wavelength here.
Writer, I love puns.
Yes.
Joe, I think you might have met your other half.
I think I have.
The way this usually goes, Marshall, is I immediately give up on trying to answer the question. Joe, very self-satisfied, tells me the pun. And then I just kind of stew.
I'm sorry, I'm doing it again.
No, you didn't ruin it. I'm saying this was a very welcome change to the dynamic. Now I get to avoid stewing.
I'm almost more excited that somebody was on the same wavelength with my pun. So, like, that's something I've never experienced before. I'm very, very happy for it.
I love them. Puns and swearing. I think they're both big and clever. I love them.
Big and clever. Exactly.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Listeners, Joe's eyes are lit up like Times Square right now. This is the happiest I've ever seen him.
Khalid, what are we, give us a synopsis.
Thank you, Joe. We're talking about Creature from the Black Lagoon, the 1954 film directed by Jack Arnold, story by Maurice Zim, and I've got a synopsis from our homeboy Google. Goes a little something like this. Remnants of a mysterious animal have come to light in a remote jungle, and a group of scientists intends to determine if the find is an anomaly or evidence of an undiscovered beast. To accomplish their goal, the scientists must brave the most perilous pieces of land South America has to offer, but the terrain is nothing compared to the danger posed by an otherworldly being that endangers their work and their lives.
Ooh.
What a monster!
They're creatures of the abstract that live off potential energy.
It's alive!
Ooh, good synopsis.
That was very detailed.
It was very detailed. So I know Howard, I feel like we know a little bit of your thoughts on this movie. You said it's your favorite monster. I really would like to hear. I think all three of Howard, Marshall, and I have watched this before. Khalid, I don't think you've seen this before, have you?
You would be correct.
Now that coming brand new, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this right away.
All right, I'll get my newbie take out of the way so the experts can jump in with the deep cuts. Yeah, I don't know what to say. I loved it. It was great. It was very fun. I think that like watching some of these older movies now coming into like one being in my 30s, so I have a lot of context for like the movies I came up with even being considered old now. So it's not just like, oh, I'm the young kid trying to get through old movies. It's like I have context for what's old and what that even means. And then also just my years of production experience. So like I understand like the labor that goes into these movies, and the further back you go, the harder it was to make a movie. And so watching it through both those lenses, it was just really fascinating, especially like I feel like a lot of sci-fi horror tropes were kind of like maybe not introduced or originated in this, but like perfected and then like eventually copied because like I think Mark is probably the big one for me. Is like as a character, I feel like I've seen so many iterations of him where it's like, are you like, do you want to like everyone to die? Like it should be as obvious as like we're all on the same side against the monster, but I don't know what your allegiances actually are because you keep having like the worst instincts. And to see that character before it became kind of like old hat to have a character like that just for conflict's sake, and to see like experimenting it with it in this group of people that I was just so curious, like what an audience thought of Mark back then. You know what I mean? Like, was there a guy that was just like, oh man, I'm so glad that he punched him by the end. Like, I'm so glad Mark got hit. Like, I wanted to hit him the whole time. Like that first time someone really felt like that about a character. Like, I guess since we just watched Alien, it would be the dude from The Hobbit. What's his name?
Nash,
Holmes.
right? The character
Ian Holmes, Ian Holmes'
Oh.
character. Like he's basically proto Ian Holm in a lot of ways, where it's just like he's very, very well cast in terms of angering the audience, and I love seeing like the kind of like originators of that. And beyond that, just the technical craft that went into the movie is so cool. I feel like every time I've heard of Creature from the Black Lagoon, it's always just kind of like that one iconic shot of him out of the lagoon, just kind of standing. Mm-hmm. And I did not realize how much of this takes place underwater. And just, I'm waiting for one of you guys to hopefully enlighten me, because like, I want to know how they shot so well underwater when like, even today, there are movies that don't knock it out the park as well as this one did, in black and white, no less. So that's pretty much my initial thoughts on it. Just a great movie, just a great primer on like where horror and sci-fi would go in the coming years, and really just an enjoyable watch. So thank you guys for suggesting it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you were just bringing up that point about the water, that you see the creature a lot. So there are two people that played the creature. There's Rico Browning, who was the underwater creature, and then there was Ben Chapman, who was the on land creature. And Rico, who just passed away this year, sadly, he was able. He's a skilled diver and stunt person, but also was in a marine land show, at like a SeaWorld or what have you, and that's where he met his wife, who played a mermaid in the show. So Rico Jr., who I'm friends with, his son, I just call him son of Creature from the Black Lagoon. He wrote a book called My Father Was a Creature, My Mother Was a Mermaid. And
wow.
About them. But anyhow, Rico could hold his breath for a very, 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 very long time. That's why it works so well in the water. He's not wearing air tanks or anything like that. There's no air tanks in the creature suit. So Rico would be able to do all the action underwater. And then when the time came, he could go up and, get a breath. And then Ben Chapman was on the land playing that creature for the most part. But it's a technical achievement, because, at the time, Universal wasn't spending a lot of money on their horror movies, although they were extremely successful and popular and spawned a lot of sequels. But you also have to remember with the original release, it was in 3D. So Creature from the Black Lagoon, it was shot in 3D, which if you ever get the opportunity to see it in 3D, it's a really super fun movie. And you can watch it now and not in 3D and go, oh, that must be a 3D shot. Like in the beginning when they kind of dolly into the skeletal hand of the creature, that's coming at you, in the 3D, and a bunch of stuff, and the underwater
spears as well. They're just constantly shooting spears.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's
That
yeah, it's
actually,
all that, yeah, all that stuff was for 3D purposes. So but I mean, the film was shot on the back lot at Universal, and they didn't go to the Amazon or anything like that. And it's just a super simple story.
They didn't. Ruined.
But it's a really fun story. Julie Adams is super beautiful in it. And of course it's the age old Beauty and the Beast story, really. That also takes us back to Kong and also Beauty and the Beast. And there's a creature who falls in love with a woman. And his main objective is, I really want to be with that woman. And like you said, the Mark character, which you have a lot in many movies, that like you said, the Ian Holm character Ash, and then in Aliens you have Paul Reiser's character, who is sympathetic at first, but it turns out he just wants to weaponize the alien. So it's kind of the same thing. It's like, we got to get this creature back, and we can make $1 million on it. Same with Carl Deming, in King Kong. So, but those themes all kind of are very familiar and run through all these films. But there's just something about Creature from the Black Lagoon. And again, if you watch it now on stream it or whatever, DVD, pay attention to all the cool stuff that you would figure would be 3D. But if you ever get a chance to see it in 3D, it's a whole nother movie. It's quite exciting.
Can I ask Howard a question? Because I know I'm jumping in and asking.
No, you're good.
No, but I was wondering. So Riku Browning, he was the underwater swimmy guy. He did all 3 films, and I would think that swimming underwater in that big costume was a son of a bitch. I mean, not easy. I wondered why they got someone to wear the suit like on the land. Like they said, Riku, it's too easy. We wouldn't even ask you. It's like, but it's like literally, I know how to walk. I mean, why didn't he just wear the costume the whole time?
I don't know I don't know, actually. It could be...
Isn't it weird? Because he did hard work. So let him walk around with his arms forward. I mean, why couldn't he? He could have done that too.
No, it's true. But it's also... I'll ask Son of Creature from the Black Lagoon. But it's very possible that since all the underwater stuff, they were shooting underwater stuff at one point. And, at this maybe the same time they were shooting the land stuff. So because it's a very compressed shoot schedule on those movies, they were probably like, maybe 35 days, maybe, I guess, if that much, maybe less.
That makes sense.
But they were probably shooting underwater stuff in a second unit, and then shooting, the creature, the stuff they needed the creature on land. So there were 2 probably. I'm just assuming that's probably what I would figure. It was 2 units.
They didn't credit him. Nobody was credited as playing the creature, were they, on any of those movies?
I don't think so, which is, that was just a Universal thing. I mean, back then, as you know, if you watch those movies, it's pretty much just department heads that get the credit, and most of those department heads that didn't really work on the film, they were just, assigned, their department was assigned to that and had other people working on it, because all the guys that actually built the creature suit don't get credit on it, like Jack Calvin and Chris Mueller and a whole bunch of people. I think it was part of the mystery too, who's playing. I mean, I can't remember, even in Frankenstein, isn't like it says the monster and there's like a question mark or something?
At the beginning of the film, it says the monster question mark, but at the end of the film, when it says, a good cast is worth repeating, then they called him just, was it Boris Karloff then he was just Karloff from Bride of Frankenstein, like he was Prince or Madonna or something. He didn't.
Yeah, Karloff. So, but yeah, I mean, I love the movie. I love the creature films. And then, when you get to, I liked the second one. The creature suit doesn't look as great. Something happened in the paint. It's like really contrasty and doesn't look as good. And then in the third film, of course, they end up operating on him and take his gills away and make him, a land creature, and he's got lungs, but he bloats up. But I always like the look of that. Like, even though he's wearing like doctor scrubs or something, which is kind of strange, but it's just neat to progress, and like
in the second and third film, whereas Riku Browning had to hold his breath underwater for the first one, he had a more steady stream of oxygen in 2 and 3, and he had a little hole in the top of his mask, Howard, and there's a constant stream of bubbles coming out of the top of his head, which is really distracting.
Like a blowhole?
No, I think it's just literally because he
It's
was
like
breathing
releasing.
more, and so he was breathing out more. It's just a tiny little hole, and just air bubbles are coming out the top of his head.
Like not an
You know?
intentional thing for the creature. It's just like a
No,
costume
probably
tick.
just yeah.
I just think that they thought that no one would ever see it. I got to say that my favorite thing about the 3 films, and I watched all 3 of them this week, is that they established the third one is different because they set the poor bastard on fire and he loses all his fishiness, and they turn him into some sort of weird fishy human freak hybrid. I mean, it's really strange where that one goes to. But they establish that the creature cannot be out of the water for more than a few minutes, you know? So basically, if you go, say, a kilometer away, you're safe, you know? It's not like, you know, these things aren't, it's quite limited. And in the first film, obviously they're on the boat like the whole time. In the second film, there's the romantic pairing, the scientists, and it's like, okay, we're going to have a day away, even though the creature's escaped and is stalking this new blonde. Let's have a day away and just forget about things. So what do? They go on a boat ride, they go for a swim, and then they go to a restaurant, a seafront restaurant, and it's like, what are you doing? It's like, you're trying to get attacked. It's like, give it some thought. And of course, the creature's stalking the shit out of them the whole.
Oh, wait, is it a saltwater or freshwater creature?
Go to a Denny's, you know. Go to a Denny's, and you'll be completely safe.
Are we sure there are no shoreline Denny's? Are they all like inland?
Well, okay. Well, that's another question. Okay.
They go to the only floating
You
Denny's.
shot holes in my whole theory now.
I'm just saying, if there's a seaside Denny's.
Yeah. It's like, oh, did you notice at the end of the second film they use exactly the same shot where he sort of, because he gets shot and he definitely dies at the end of the first one, but then he's alive in the second one, and then he gets shot again, and then they use exactly the same shot of him sinking in the water again at the end of the second film. I mean, it's
maybe the sinking shot is meant to imply that's what he does when he has to like recuperate, and then he's able to come back or something. I don't know. They're just like, well, he came back from that once. He can do it again. Keep it open.
The director at the time, like, it's just like, what use it? They won't see it. It's not like these days when everyone can watch things, 300 times and study it.
Looking for Easter eggs and everything.
Yeah, we're probably just snogging in a drive-in and not really paying much attention anyway.
True. They weren't expecting people to study it like we do.
Like us freaks.
Yes, right.
Yeah, you'd have to explain what a podcast is to
tell
them.
you, if you ask the director, if you said, do you think in 70 years a bunch of nerds are going to be sitting like talking across the world discussing the film, and when he picked himself up after laughing for an hour, he would say probably not.
He's laughing for 15 minutes. They smoked way too much to laugh that long.
Yeah, he's out of breath.
Because I mean, we love monsters.
Yeah,
and those humans were douchebags, weren't they? I mean, just terrible. Capturing him, it's like, we want to get him for science, but if he gets a bit handsy, then shoot the bastard. It's like, try and capture him, but then, and everybody's like constantly shooting him, like putting guns on him all the time.
It's funny because we were talking about how like nerds kind of inherited the earth, and in this movie they start as nerds ostensibly and very quickly just like gravitate towards jockish behavior until they're just punching each other and shooting at things. It's funny.
That is true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Before we get into some more like the technical stuff, I kind of wanted to echo what you said, Khalid, about just the underwater shoots of it. Like, I watched this movie when I was a kid, and I hadn't remembered just how much of it takes place underwater. We did like a podcast not too long ago on that movie Sweetheart, which is also like an underwater creature, and we remember learning that monster suit like actually couldn't get wet or to like expand and get like too heavy. And the fact that this is just like this monster suit that somebody designed is just mostly underwater, and not just underwater, but somebody like actually swimming in a sense that makes it look realistic, like a creature coming at you. Like that first jump scare kind of scene when you first see the creature underwater is still really effective, I think. And it's like a marvel to watch. Like, it's really cool to see, like you said, Khalid, like we don't, even movies today still don't quite have that right.
No.
I don't know. That's just one thing I will just kind of forever be impressed with this movie about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think, like the way they built the suit was that it was basically a foam rubber suit,
Yeah.
you know, and they were big plaster molds, and but I think they laid in a layer of like slip latex or like latex rubber, stippled it in so it had a seal and coat, and then ran the foam rubber, and I probably had some sort of neoprene undersuit,
Mm-hmm.
so it was built like a wetsuit. You know, it's not a really thick suit.
No, it seems
I've
mobile.
never, yeah, absolutely, and it had to be. You know, and again, it's perfect. Like you don't see any tears in it. It
Yeah.
doesn't look funky. It's not buckling weird. It was really way ahead of its time. You know, and even with the close up when the creature comes out of the water and is walking towards the camera, and his mouth is opening and the gills are moving. I mean, that's really, really great.
It's
You
really
see,
cool.
the tongue inside, and it's just a real achievement, you know, in makeup effects, and I think it's definitely a fave of all monster makers and monster fans and monster kids. But yeah, no, it's very, very interesting. Yeah, you know, when you're dealing with foam rubber, it's a sponge essentially. So if the suit's really thick and you go into water or it gets rained on, it definitely absorbs the water, you know, as well as it does absorb sweat, the actor's sweat. And you know, like I worked on Predator at Stan Winston, and one of my jobs, they shot that film in Mexico. I didn't go to set for that portion, but we shot second unit, or we did pickup days in a small little green screen stage in Culver City. And one of my jobs was I took the Predator home every single night. I would wring it out, and I had like a Jeep. So I would leave the top open, and I'd have the drive home, let it start to air out, bring it to my little apartment, and I'd hang it in the second bathroom with a dehumidifier, and it would dehumidify all night long of sweat, Kevin Peter Hall sweat. So that bathroom was very smelly for a long time, and my then wife wasn't very excited about that.
Oh.
And I would then pack the suit up again in the morning and take it back, and I had a dry suit for Kevin to get into. So you know, it absorbs. That's the thing about foam rubber. So I'm sure when Rico got out of the water, it was very heavy and you know, hard to get out of like a wetsuit, and then they had to wring it out and let it dry and all that fun stuff.
Wow.
So you know, so I think Ben Chapman actually had the easier performance where he wasn't ever wet, never went into the water. You know, they probably spritzed him down for the the glisten, but yeah, definitely Rico to me was the hero, you know, of doing it all. And Rico actually went on. He was a stunt coordinator. He did all the stunt work in Thunderball, all the shark fight stuff. So Rico was the stunt coordinator on Thunderball, the James Bond movie, which is cool. And he did a whole bunch of things, but really, really fantastic creature guy. And he died in his late 90s, and he still appreciated the fact of that the privilege of getting to play that part and how much it meant to people, and would go to conventions as long as his health he could, and signing autographs and just being there to talk about playing the creature. He knew how important it was. He wasn't like, oh yeah, whatever, it's a stupid monster movie. He wasn't that guy. He really took great pride in helping bring that character to life in those movies to be as endearing to all of us as it is.
Wow.
Yeah, you look at how strong he must have been.
Oh yeah.
I mean, because it must have occasionally gotten wet and super heavy, don't you think, Howard? I mean, underwater, and the power to be able to do that, to be able to do it while holding his breath in the first one, and to be able to do all those acrobatics, swimming around upside down and spinning around. I mean, just
multiple takes, presumably.
Yeah. I mean, that guy was strong as an ox, and if I ever had to vote for anyone that I thought would live to be 100 or almost, it would have been that guy. And I'm not surprised, because it's like, Jesus, I'm sure that even like nobody.
Oh, he went down swinging, I think.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, that is one tough guy.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, he's a strong dude, man. He was 93 when he passed away.
Oh wow.
So, but yeah, super cool. Always available. Always excited to talk about the creature from the Black Lagoon.
I think to your
point, they bury him at sea or in the Black Lagoon, Howard?
I think they buried him in the sea. No, I don't know. I have no idea.
They should have floated him face down in the water like he ends in the.
But, I mean,
I would want to go.
One of the great things about being in the industry, and I mean, Marshall got a huge take. I mean, he's interviewed so many big people and actors and so forth. But as a makeup artist, dreaming of working with certain people and as a kid, and then getting to work with them, I have no shame. I ask every question I can. I worked with Roddy McDowell in 1990, and I asked Roddy every single Planet of the Apes question I ever had, as a kid. And Roddy was so wonderful and answered all of them.
Wow.
And it's cool. Same with, when I met Rico, it was like a million questions, and I know probably has been asked the same questions, but I'm a giant fan, and that will never change. And I can work on a million movies with all these directors and all these actors and, whatever the successes or not. But no matter what, I am still a fan. I still get all fluttery when I see, or meet somebody that I'm super excited about. Like I went to the Oscars with my daughter this past year, and we're walking in, and I look over and I see John Williams sitting in a chair and I just stopped and I ran over. I'm like, fuck this. I'm going to go meet John Williams. And I got down on one knee and I just grabbed his hand and I told him how much he meant to me. And I loved him. And he is the sound of all my favorite movies. And he was really wonderful. I mean, it was probably just like, what the hell? But I couldn't resist.
Came and dragged Howard away. Yeah. It was a magic moment.
Yeah, I couldn't resist it because this was a great opportunity. I met John a couple times, through the Oscars and so forth. But I'm like, I gotta just tell him how much he means to me again. So all of a sudden the little kid jumped out of me, and I'm like, there's John Williams, go see him, and I just feel like this is my opportunity, and you just be smart about it, of course, and not be too much of a geek. But it buffers it that I'm a professional and that I've accomplished X amount of things. So, but yeah, no, I still get giddy when I see Rick Baker, and I've known Rick since I was 13 years old. But I'm such a giant fan of everything he does. I still get really excited, and my heart really beats fast. I'm just like, oh my god, I just love Rick Baker so much.
Honestly, you guys saying all these things, like this is kind of the feeling that I feel like Khalid and I might be having with this conversation, like having all these stories. Like I'm like, oh my god, like they worked on Predator.
Naming stuff that we have like lovingly gushed over in one podcast or another, and just like these are just memories for you, like like production memories.
I would love to have Dehumidify Predator on my resume. Like that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, I'll tell you, it was weird. I mean, we didn't know what the movie was going to be because how that came about is that they had shot the movie and they had another shot do the creature. They didn't like the creature.
Yep.
And so we were all working on Monster Squad at the time. And Stan came in with Arnold and Joel Silver, who was the producer, and pulled myself and like a handful of other guys. A guy named Steve Wang, Matt Rose, Shannon Shea, Bob Kurtzman, Grant Arndt, and said, you guys are not on Monster Squad anymore. You're going to go over to the other little satellite shop up the road, and you're going to start working on this movie, Predator. We have a month and a half to knock it out. So it was a very, very small group of us that started working on the Predator stuff and had a short period of time. And Steve Wang and Matt Rose were the guys that led the charge on that. It's all them artistically. And we knocked it out, and we didn't know how it was going to be. And we, like I said, they shot in Palenque, only the monster stuff. The rest of the movie was 100% finished. And then we did 2 weeks of just green screen stuff. And we all went to see the screening, not knowing what we were going to see. And we were blown away. And we're like, oh my God, this might be an iconic monster movie now that we all worked on. It was really, really thrilling. But you never know. So yes, taking the smelly, stinky, sweat-covered, sweat-soaked Predator suit every single night, taking it home and dehumidifying it and wringing it out and just sweat, Kevin Peter Hall's sweat pouring out, shoes and hands. At that point, we only had one suit, like 2 sets of hands, 1 set of feet, and we had 2 heads. We had the mechanical head, and then we had a head that was missing, like the face was cut out, and that's what the mask would Velcro onto, the helmeted mask. And that's what we used for reshoots. So it was very limited amount of time to make everything at Stan Winston Studios. And when they came back from set, we just had a very, very few pieces left that were shootable for the reshoot. So, but yes, we did the best we could. And
Howard, tell the story, the Robert Englund story, the one when you were working, when you'd had his motel room from the night before.
Yeah, not that this has anything to do with Creature from the Black Lagoon.
No, but it is to do with
yeah.
with,
No.
yeah.
So when you would work on these Nightmare on Elm Street movies, and I did Freddy's makeup, I did Robert Englund's makeup for Part 4, and under Kevin Yeager's creation, and Kevin hired me to apply. All I did is apply the makeup. And that back then, New Line Cinema would have a release date before they even had a script. So it's like Freddy comes out, June 24th, and you're like, but it's April, and you would shoot 7 days a week around the clock, and there would be multiple directors and multiple units shooting all the stuff. So, I would do the makeup in the morning, and then we would literally go around to each little stage, and Robert would shoot his piece or whatever for this, and this. So we were also exhausted that we were shooting in Valencia in California, and there was it wasn't even a soundstage; it was like a warehouse. And anyhow, they ended up getting us some hotel rooms up the road because it was too dangerous to drive back and forth. So Robert and I went back, and Robert had his room, I had my room. So okay, then the next day we go do it again, blah blah blah. We go, they get us rooms, and so I get into the shower to clean up after night, and I see Freddy's ear in the shower, and I'm like, oh, I guess this is where Robert was last night, because Robert would at times he'd start taking off the makeup, and I'm like, Robert, let me just clean it up. He's like, no, I'm gonna go, I'm exhausted, and he's like, I'll take it off in the shower. So anyhow, I walked into the shower, and there's a Freddy ear, which led me to believe I didn't really clean the room very well.
Yeah,
or what the hell is that? I'm not touching that. So one night, that night I ended up finding pieces of Freddy in the shower. So I went to Robert the next day. I'm like, I think I had your room. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I found your ear in the shower. He's like, oh yeah. I just pulled it off and left it there. So, but it's crazy stuff like that you always remember, and that motel is still there. That hotel's still there off the 405 or the 5, and I drive past it, and I'm like, that's where I found Freddy's ear.
That's a memory.
To this day, they've still not cleaned the shower.
Yeah, there's several Freddy's ears in there. So, yeah.
It's a monument
body
at this
parts
point.
now. The water doesn't even go down the sinkhole. It's so full of body parts.
Exactly.
Wow.
Not all foam rubber either. But,
Yeah, it's got to be some zoning issues at least there. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So crazy stuff. But going back about Creature from the Black Lagoon, it's like I love all 3 movies.
Mm-hmm.
I really love the first, of course, and I really love the third. But they're cool, man, and it's just I hope they never remake them. I hope the Universal Universe does not touch those movies, because I think they're untouchable. I'd be fearful of some really dumb story and changing the design of the creature. I think the only other great creature, revision is what Steve Wang and Matt Rose did at Stan Winston Studios on Monster Squad.
Yeah, that one looks cool.
Tom Woodruff Jr. played. That's a beautiful, beautiful version that I think was extremely faithful and was a great tweak. But I just, it's a great design, and then of course Guillermo del Toro and Mike Hill and the guys at Legacy Effects kind of did a version on Shape of Water, for the asset, and on Doug Jones, who played
that was cool too.
It was very, very cool,
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, I remember Guillermo talking about it before I saw the movie, and it was his love letter to Creature from the Black Lagoon, and I think that's as close as we should ever get. Is like, we were having a conversation yesterday, and someone said, "Oh, I hope Guillermo does a reboot." I'm like, no, that he shouldn't do a reboot. It's like, but Shape of Water, that's it, okay. But I got to stick with the original ones, and they're just fun monster movies. They're my favorite. Creature is my favorite thing.
I think that to your point about the suit, like I think that what the suit is so iconic, and then in the third one, when you get that like variation of the suit, is just like it's just cool enough to have like it's something slightly different, but it's still like within that original trilogy. And I think that's enough for changing it up. It's something unique and interesting for that last little bit.
Absolutely.
I'm looking at your book right now, actually, and on one of the pages, I see like a concept modeling for like a potential remake of the creature.
Yeah,
that's cool, isn't it? It's a beautiful thing.
It's cool. Look, I actually read that one of the early concept arts for the creature was like a more feminine eel-like figure. It kind of reminded me of that vibe, almost like
that piece of art was a great sculptor and designer named David Grasso.
Yeah,
and Dave did that for Mike Elizalde, who owns Spectral Motion. And I think that the project was going around for a while, and everybody was doing some maquettes, and because you wanted to work on it.
Yeah.
If anything, to just make sure it didn't get messed up. you know. But luckily, again, it fell to the wayside. But I love that creature too.
It's a cool design, yeah. Page 150,
it is.
131, Cleet, if you want to check it out.
Yeah,
Thank
Dave
you.
did a beautiful job with that creature, and that reminds me I need to bother him about making me one. So, but yeah, it's super cool, and you know, I think the thing is, like, monster guys know what it needs to be. My fear would be they'd hire an illustrator or a designer that's not really in the monster world, and they'd come up with something silly. And plus, there's, you know, a whole committee nowadays, you know, where it used to be the singular voice of the director. That can be a rarity. You know, you have few directors that have singular voices. Guillermo is one, Quentin Tarantino, Paul Thomas Anderson, Chris Nolan, probably J.J. Abrams. But yeah, for the most part, you know, you have 27 producers and studio heads and marketing, worst of all, telling you what things should look like.
Yeah.
It's like, it's like, what? So now what? Marketing tells us what we're doing. You know? So that's always super frustrating.
Someone somewhere said that this kind of toy sells better.
Totally, man.
Yeah.
I can't believe, though, seriously, that it's not been remade, because it's, yes, by all means, it shouldn't, but most other classics have been, and there's no other Universal monster that hasn't been remade the hell out of. I mean, you know, countless Dracula movies, no end of werewolf movies. I mean, either the Wolfman, but also, you know, multiple different werewolf movies. No creature movies.
Our namesake,
you know,
Frankenstein.
really, what is that? Is that just? Does everybody just collectively respect it so much? That can't be it. I mean, why hasn't there been 50 more creature films?
It seems like it's not for lack of trying. Like, I think I looked at like a list, and there's just like a whole list you could see of people who tried to make another script or tried to bring something, just like for some reason falls through. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not good.
Browning's dead now, so that's
it. Yeah, Rico can play it. That's it. Yeah, no, I think it's because they've all been really bad projects. Not that that's ever stopped Hollywood.
Yeah,
that's never stopped Hollywood from making a movie.
That's true.
Just because, wow, the script isn't very good.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't stop Universal from remaking The Mummy, or, I mean, you know, there've been lots of remakes that were questionable.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's a very Occam's razor answer, though.
Yeah. No, and I mean, you know, it's I'm all up for seeing different versions. You know, like Guillermo is in the middle of prepping a Frankenstein version.
I heard about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then they just announced a Bride of Frankenstein film with Maggie Gyllenhaal directing it, which I find interesting.
Oh, fascinating. Okay.
And Christian Bale's in it.
Oh.
So I think playing Victor Frankenstein or however it's going to be, I'm not sure.
Watch it for sure.
That's good casting.
Yeah, it should be interesting. So
hey, I got a trivia question for you, Vintage Geek here. Elsa Lancaster, she played the Bride of Frankenstein. There was a particular animal that she really despised, and she based as part of her performance as the Bride of Frankenstein on this creature. What creature was it?
Huh.
You know, there's that scene when she's looking sort of very pointedly and moving her head around.
Yeah.
She said that it was she saw these creatures often.
I'm taking a guess just based on her performance and how you're describing it. Is it a cat?
It's not a cat.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Is it snake?
It's not a snake.
Oh.
I feel
it's way off both of those guesses.
I feel like her movements are very bird-like. So
yes, Howard. Yes.
Wow.
She says, see them. See, I lived near Regent's Park for a long time, and there's a little lake, and where you could go boating, and there were these birds on it. They were swans.
Swans.
Oh,
and for some reason, she took exception to swans because they do shit everywhere and they chase you. They're not, you know, they're not great. And they're protected by the royal family, which just sort of makes them annoying, you know. Like, really, the Queen, I mean, probably the king now, says, you can't kill a swan. It's not like I want to go and kill swans, but Elsa Lancaster, she just really didn't like swans. And so
you also don't want to be told you can't kill swans. Like, don't take that option off the table.
I know. It's like, I wasn't planning on killing a swan, but, you know, now that you say it, I'm sort of itching to at least give it a, you know, a push.
The punk rock instinct to hit a swan.
Yeah. So there you go. So sorry, that had literally nothing to do with anything. I just thought I would.
It's a good trivia piece.
Question every now and then.
I allow it. I'll allow it. As co-host, whatever powers I have, that is exactly what this podcast was for.
For sure.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
There is one quick thing I wanted to talk about more about the creature before we wrap up here. I know I said like an hour and we're well over an hour now, but I think that it's interesting. I read the book The Lady from the Black Lagoon, the one about Millicent Patrick. Do you guys check that one out yet?
I have.
Yeah, I think that's such a fascinating story just to know. So Millicent Patrick was a designer who kind of came up with a lot of the designs for the Gillman creature, but didn't get the credit for the longest time. Howard, you might know more about this than I do. You've heard the story?
Yeah, I have. I mean, I think it's debatable. It's hard. You know what? It's hard to say.
Yeah.
No, but none of us were there.
Right. It's fascinating, though.
I in my, not being an aficionado of that storyline, I mean, I know the guys that sculpted it. I know who they were and who made that suit and who built it and who were really responsible. I kind of feel that she was brought in as a bit of a, she might have been a consultant to some degree.
Okay.
But I think there's also a level of publicity that it was used for. So I kind of take that book and that story with a grain of salt.
Okay.
Obviously there are women in the horror community who abide by it, and I totally get it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really feel that way. I think that maybe it's a little bit of propaganda.
Sure.
Just like, we had a woman design it, for whatever reasons, Universal felt that was advantageous, at that point.
Yeah.
But I mean, also Bud Westmore's there with her too. And
that was the other name I had there. Yeah, Bud Westmore was involved in that.
And Bud was the makeup department head of Universal. That doesn't necessarily mean he did a lot of the work, but he was the department head, and he gets the credit on the movie. But he orchestrated the building of everything, and there could be 20 movies that were going through the makeup department at Universal Studios at the same time, and Bud was the head of all that, but had to delegate each film to different people. Obviously, he couldn't do all 20 movies, and that's how all the studios used to work. Warner's had theirs, and Paramount had theirs, Universal, so forth and so on, Columbia, and so yeah, I mean, I'm not 100% like saying, yeah, she designed it, she should get full credit for it. Again, I'll go back to Chris Mueller, who sculpted the damn thing, and it's a Chris Mueller sculpture for sure. Mm-hmm. And you can see his style and everything. And I think there were a lot of people's hands involved in it. And I think to pull the narrative that it was just her and she brought it, she probably did some designs. A lot of movies have a lot of designers. So, she was perhaps one of them, but she wasn't. I don't believe she was the designer.
The sole designer.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay, the reason I brought it up is I know it's kind of like a story that's been kind of coming out more recently. I was wondering if you'd probably know more about that than most of us would.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sold on that, but
But she was somebody that was probably involved in that department, right?
Yeah, I mean, she was obviously there.
Yeah.
I mean, there's photos.
I've seen some of those. Yeah.
Yeah, they're very stagey photos. Like it's like we do that as a gag.
Yeah.
But we always
behind the scenes.
Like if we're with a sculpture, we'll hold a 2x4. Up to a sculpture, or like come up with something really silly because it's a ridiculous photograph. But those are really orchestrated photos. You don't see her, she's wearing a dress in the shot and all that. And, so yeah, I think my gut feeling tells me that had to do a lot with publicity.
Okay. Yeah. Fascinating.
That's how I feel.
Okay. Well, yeah, a book is Lady from the Black Lagoon, if anyone in listening wants to check it out. But fascinating story.
Yeah, absolutely. It's another narrative for sure.
So before we wrap up, and I want to say thanks again for joining us, you guys. Enlightening conversations, just like fascinating stuff. But I wanted to ask Khalid one last question.
I'm not going to say anything this time.
All right, hit me.
I was trying to really reach hard for a pun, but I don't have anyone. I'm just going to ask you, Khalid. This is one of Khalid's silly bits in the podcast. Well, Khalid, would you fight or would you flirt with the Gillman if you were in this situation?
Thank you for asking, Joe. I'll be honest. So for those of you who don't know, which Marshall and Howard, you guys might not know, Fight or Flirt is a segment I do whenever we're talking about a creature, and it's basically what it sounds like. Would I fight the monster or flirt with it if I was in the movie? And
believe it or not, I actually got that from the title of this part. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, but thank you.
No, honestly, it's more for myself. Every once in a while, I'm like, wait, what does it mean? So thank you for indulging me. Yeah, so for this one, I guess I really thought about it, and I would flirt because I don't know. I think that at the end of the day, like the creature is just a dude, like that's kind of like how he like portrays himself. He seems pretty low maintenance, and I keep saying he, it could be a she, but like the fact that it's like attracted to the woman and like trying to like bring her back to its lair and everything, and it's got some cool swim moves that I think it could teach me. The lagoon looks like year round, like a decent spot to be. I've got a protector, like I feel like that's the apex predator of that environment. So living in the jungle.
Are you flirting with him, or are you like making house with him? It's like
you're already asking the wrong questions. Everybody always asks me this. I don't.
It's hard.
I'm not a floozy, Marshall. If I flirt, I'm trying to make something happen here. I'm trying to build. I'm trying to make a relationship happen.
Wow, well, that's impressive. You're in the long run.
I'm a romantic at heart, and I like to think there's a future there when I'm flirting. So when it comes to the creature of the Black Lagoon, I would flirt just because it looks like they've got a nice little place. They've got a pretty steady, consistent job being the king of the jungle. Yeah, so I'd flirt. Easy flirt.
Great answer. I think your point about the Black Lagoon, though, like we know it's a set. We know they're not actually on the Amazon, but it just looks from what we're seeing, it looks like a pleasant place, though. Like I don't feel like I'm diving in there and getting leeches or like smacking bugs all the time watching the movie. But
I'll be honest, before the creature shows up, which is like 20, 30 minutes in. Actually, It shows up quick, but like before they know the creature is a creature, they're having a pretty good time. I was like, honestly, I would be an archaeologist back then. That looks super fun. You just go like scuba diving with your hot friends and then
wear your swim trunks and just dive right in. Yeah.
And I mean, if the creature is your significant other, then nothing is going to give you any shit, is it? I mean, it's going to be swimming around upside down, watching you. Anything comes close, it's just going to wrestle it down to the bottom of the water,
And Marshall, you can guess, like I talk a lot of shit, so like I need a strong partner. I need someone that can like back me up when I talk something to the wrong Amazonian.
No, I get that. I think that you like him because he doesn't speak at all.
See, that's the other thing, I'm the peanut butter, he's the jelly. Like
the talking.
we complete each other. You get me now.
Yeah, no, I'm there. I think that don't need a two-way conversation.
I mean, with me around, you definitely don't. But yeah, thanks for asking, Joe.
All right, we should move out. We have one final quick segment we have before we close out our podcast. If you guys have time and want to indulge us,
sure.
The last thing we always do is it's called we call it the What the Fandom segment, in which we all just share one quick thing that we're just interested in, whether that's watching, listening to, reading, may not have anything to do with monsters or nothing to do with creature at all, but just something that you're like, oh, I'm into this right now and I kind of want to plug that. So
sure.
We'll let you guys go after us since give you some time to think. But so I'll ask Khalid first. What the fandom with you this week, Khalid?
Thanks for asking, Joe. My What the Fandom this week is a movie I got lucky to check out last night in theaters. It's a limited release right now, but I think it's going to be mass release soon. It's called Bottoms, which is the follow-up film from director Emma Seligman. She did Shiva Baby, if you know it. So Bottoms stars Ayo Edebiri from The Bear, and the Shiva Baby star Rachel Sennett is the other star / co-writer of the film. And this movie is delightful. I don't know how else to put it. Like, it really just has like, it's got that sensibility of like Wet Hot American Summer or Hot Rod, where it's like so absurdist and it's such a high wire act of like, the plot is ridiculous. Like, if I was even to tell you the plot, it would spoil nothing. It's these two nerdy lesbian girls start a fight club at their school as an excuse to flirt with hot girls. It makes no sense. And the movie doesn't even pretend it makes sense. And it's amazing for it. And it was such a delight. The theater was just from the beginning, everybody was on its like wavelength and started just busting out laughing at every joke, and it delivered. And I'm going to be thinking about it for a while. This is definitely going to be a rewatch for me. This is a new comedy, like legendary film for me. So Bottoms, very enthusiastic. What the fandom for me on that. And Joe, what the fandom with you?
Thanks for asking, Cleet. I remember seeing the trailer for that one. I'm pretty excited for Bottoms too. I'll check that out for sure. My fandom this week, nothing new that I've been into, but I've kind of gone back and I'm trying out reading manga a little bit, which I'm not huge into. I know we did an episode on one, but I started a series called Claymore, which is well known. It's from Nohiro Yagi, and it's kind of a vaguely Middle Ages kind of world where there's these creatures called Yoma that can disguise themselves as humans, and they end up trying to eat humans. But there's these warriors called Claymore, and they're these women who are half Claymore or half Yoma, half human, who are able to actually fight and detect and kill these Yoma creatures. And so we're following one named Claire, and there's a young boy that she helps save, whose family was killed, and who follows her around. And I like it for a lot of reasons because I like monsters and stuff, but it's interesting. We had this discussion like a long time ago, I think if you remember, Khalid, about the lone wolf and cub narrative and how it's usually like a male and a younger girl or something. And this is actually like the finally found the example where it's the opposite, where it's an older woman and a young boy in that kind of scenario. And so it's interesting to see that, how it's played out. I've only read the first 2 volumes so far. I've watched some of the anime too, but it's a fun story, kind of dark. If you like Berserk, it's probably up your alley. But that's my recommendation. It's from 2007, is from the anime. I think the manga books are even older, but it's not new, but it's new for me right now, and so I'm enjoying it. That's my fandom, Claymore. And I'll pass it over to Marshall. What's your fandom this week?
My fandom this week, actually, for the last 50 odd years. No, lately I've just been super into monster movies. I mean, I'm always really into monster movies, but Howard and I had a lot of conversations about monster films lately. I've been thinking about it a lot, and I recently rewatched the original King Kong. I when Treat Williams died, I wanted to watch a film in tribute to him. I watched Deep Rising.
Oh, good one.
Just the last couple of days ahead of chatting with you guys, it was a good excuse. I watched the 3 creature movies. Just yesterday, I caught up with the Meg 2, which is, of course, the most preposterous nonsense. I kind of like that it's complete preposterous nonsense, that these incredibly fake CG sharks are still more realistic than the people in the film that are actually there. But it's like, have you heard of acting? Do you understand? It's completely wacky and awful, but also sort of wonderful. I think that good, bad monster movies just. So I've been on a real jag of monster movies lately, and probably always. But I just, whenever it's like, am I awake enough that I can watch a movie?
Real.
Yes or no? If the answer is yes, it's like, what monster movie am I going to watch tonight? Also, my wife, she's not so much into sci-fi, but she'll always watch horror movies with me. So it's like, we watch a lot of shark movies, just all sorts of like crazy stuff. And it's like, she's got a really good tolerance for like monster nonsense. So, I'm very lucky. I'm very lucky there. So, I mean, nothing new, I got to say. I've been, deep diving back. I suppose the Meg too, but
yeah,
been really just enjoying just monsters.
Love to hear it. How about you, Howard?
My fandom is it's not really that monster related. I've been reading a lot, so I'm in the middle of reading Quentin Tarantino's book Cinema Speculation, which I love. And I read Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which was his first novel. And if you haven't read that, it's fantastic. It's not a novelization of the movie. It's expanded the characters and what happens before and happens during and happens after the movie. And it's really spectacular. But this new book, Cinema Speculation, is wonderful. The first chapter is Quentin talking about his influences as a child, what drove him to the movies that he loves and what helped make him the person he is today. And then each chapter, he basically talks about individual films. Like each chapter is a film. Like chapter 1 is, like Deliverance. Yeah, and it's just so interesting how he breaks it all down. He really deconstructs the movie in his opinion, but also based on interviews with filmmakers like Walter Hill. He spoke to a lot about Deliverance and just it's interesting because Quentin and I are relatively the same age. We both grew up in in this world and loving movies and in California, and a lot of his references are similar to my references, which is probably why we get along when we see each other. But this book is really, really fantastic, and it's driven me to like make a list of, okay, these are the movies I need to rewatch. Like I just rewatched The Wild Bunch, which my wife had never seen, and that's just a magnificent film on every level. Great Sam Peckinpah film, which everybody should watch because that's how movies should be made. But yeah, no, I'm really, really into cinema speculation, reading what Quentin has to say, because his insight is pretty spot on, and he's so brilliant about storytelling and filmmaking, and also while reading it, he's such a massive fan of these movies,
Yeah.
and these filmmakers, and all that his insight is really. It's just amazing. I love it, and that's the stuff I love. I love the storytelling and the speculation, and hopefully he'll write another cinema speculation part 2 and cover more movies, because he really knows his stuff. So that's my big thing these days.
Cool. Great answers all around, it seems like. Again, one more last time, I'm going to thank you guys again. This was super fun, like enlightening conversations. Learn, like, just like I said, just give you guys a mic and just like hear you talk. It's fascinating, these stories. But is there any, other than the book, I will put links in our notes for it. Is there any other like things you guys want to plug real quick, like social media sites or anything people can find you?
I'm just on Instagram. I'm Hoops, so it's HOOPS 511. And yeah, that's really the main thing. I'm not on Twitter like Marshall, and once in a blue moon, I guess, checking Facebook, but Instagram's my thing.
Yeah, so come say hi to me. I'm just at Marshall Julius on Twitter. I'm quite loyal to Twitter. I don't care if Twitter's not loyal to me. That's where I have my sort of biggest nerd bubble, and I like to think it's sort of an oasis of nerdy goodness. It's no trolls, no politics, just lots of geeky bullshit, which is the way I like it, and it's a safe place for everyone. And I always respond to DMs, so come say hello, and let's talk about the sort of nonsense we all love.
Cannot wait to follow.
I'll be watching. I'll be waiting.
No, as soon as we're off, I'm following. But anyways, thank you guys so much. Yeah, honestly, everything Joe said goes for me times 10. Like, truly, I'm going to be unpacking this conversation for a few days. Like, just all the amazing stuff that you both like told us about, like just the history that you brought to this podcast. It's really everything we love, like made manifest. Like, you guys are really just out here doing it, and it's so cool. And we just, from the bottom of our hearts, like, we couldn't do what we do if it wasn't for guys like you. And it's like, I think it's just that perpetual fandom that is so fun to see. It's like, you guys were fans and that inspired you, and we became fans and that's what inspired, and hopefully that change just keeps going.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, guys. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah, guys. It was fun. It was great chatting.
Yeah, and
great.
Thank you everybody for listening. As we said last week, we have a Patreon. If you guys want to go ahead and sign up for that, we're gonna have some really cool stuff coming in the next month. But until next time, creep it easy.